Good evening, and welcome to Third Church, New York City. Let's begin by singing hymn number 329. I'll read the first verse. The heavens declare the glory of him who made all things. Each day repeats the story. Each night its tribute brings to earth's remotest border. His mighty power is known in beauty, grandeur, order. His handiwork is shown. Hymn number 329. I'll read from the Bible and correlative passages from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. This week's readings have to do with the healing in consciousness of the belief of climate and weather extremes. Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Proverbs. The Lord by wisdom hath founded the earth, by understanding hath he established the heavens. 1 Chronicles. Let the heavens be glad, let the earth rejoice, and let men say among the nations, the Lord reigneth. Let the sea roar and the fullness thereof. Let the fields rejoice, and all that is therein. Then shall the trees of the wood sing out at the presence of the Lord, because he cometh to judge the earth. O give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. Genesis. But there went up a mist from the earth. Joel. The word of the Lord that came to Joel. Awake, ye drunkards, and weep, for a nation is come up upon my land, strong and without number, whose teeth are the teeth of a lion. The field is wasted, the land mourneth, for the corn is wasted. The new wine is dried up, the oil languisheth. Gird thyselves and lament, ye priests. Sanctify a feast. Call a solemn assembly. Gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of the Lord your God, and cry unto the Lord. Alas for the day of the Lord is at hand. O Lord, unto thee will I cry, for the fire hath devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and the flame hath burned all the trees of the field. The beasts of the field cry also unto thee, for the rivers of waters are dried up. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. The earth shall quake, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining, and the Lord shall utter his voice. Therefore saith the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning, and rend your heart and not your garments, and turn unto the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger and of great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil. Yea, the Lord will answer and say unto his people, behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and ye shall be satisfied therewith. Fear not, O land, be glad and rejoice, for the Lord will do great things. Be not afraid, ye beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring. For the tree beareth her fruit, the fig tree and the vine do yield their strength. Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he hath given you the former rain moderately. And the floors shall be full of wheat, and the vats shall overflow with wine and oil. And I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten. And it came to pass, and it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Isaiah. I, the Lord thy God, will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, fear not, I will help thee. When the poor and needy seek water, and there is none, and their tongue faileth for thirst, I, the Lord, will hear them. I will open rivers in high places and fountains in the midst of the valleys. I will plant in the wilderness the cedar, the shittim tree, and the myrtle and the oil tree, that they may see and know and consider and understand together that the hand of the Lord hath done this. 1 Kings. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, how he had slain all the prophets. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, so let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough now, O Lord. Take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baken on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. And the angel of the Lord came again, and he said, Go forth, and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still, small voice. Mark. When the even was come, he said unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him, even as he was in the ship, and there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him, and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? Matthew. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and he opened his mouth and taught them. Whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, shall be likened unto a foolish, and doeth them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Psalms. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. And let them sacrifice the sacrifices of thanksgiving and declare his works with rejoicing. They that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he commanded and raiseth the stormy wind, and lifteth up the waves thereof. They mount up to the heaven, they go down again to the depths. Their soul is melted because of trouble. They reel to and fro, and stagger like a drunken man, and are at their wits' end. Then they cry unto the Lord in their trouble, and he bringeth them out of their distresses. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O bless, O Lord my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretcheth out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever. Thou coverest it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. Ephesians. We henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive, but speaking the truth in love, may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. And from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. Mind's control over the universe, including man, is no longer an open question, but is demonstrable science. The still, small voice of scientific thought reaches over continent and ocean to the globe's remotest bound. The inaudible voice of truth is to the human mind as when a lion roareth. It is heard in the desert and in the dark places of fear. The infinite truth of the Christ cure has come to this age through a still, small voice, through silent utterances and divine anointing, which quicken and increase the beneficial effects of Christianity. I long to see the consummation of my hope, namely the students' higher attainments in this line of light. Because truth is infinite, error should be known as nothing. Because truth is omnipotent in goodness, error, truth's opposite, has no might. The effects of Christian Science are not so much seen as felt. It is the still, small voice of truth uttering itself. We are either turning away from this utterance, or we are listening to it and going up higher. Willingness to become as a little child and to leave the old for the new renders thought receptive of the advanced idea. Gladness to leave the false landmarks, and joy to see them disappear. This disposition helps to precipitate the ultimate harmony. Nature voices natural, spiritual law and divine love, but human belief misinterprets nature. Arctic regions, sunny tropics, giant hills, winged winds, mighty billows, verdant vales, festive flowers, and glorious heavens all point to mind, the spiritual intelligence they reflect. The floral apostles are hieroglyphs of deity. Suns and planets teach grand lessons. The stars make night beautiful, and the leaflet turns naturally towards the light. In the order of science, in which the principle is above what it reflects, all is one grand concord. Change this statement. Suppose mind to be governed by matter, or soul and body, and you lose the keynote of being, and there is continual discord. Error soweth the wind, and reapeth the whirlwind. Erring power is a material belief, a miscalled force, the offspring of will and not of wisdom, of the mortal mind and not of the immortal. It is the headlong cataract, the devouring flame, the tempest's breath. It is lightning and hurricane, all that is selfish, wicked, dishonest, and impure. Moral and spiritual might belong to Spirit, who holds the wind in his fists. And this teaching accords with science and harmony. Your influence for good depends upon the weight you throw into the right scale. The good you do and embody gives you the only power obtainable. Evil is not power. It is a mockery of strength, which ere long betrays its weakness and falls, never to rise. Mind, supreme over all its formations and governing them all, is the central sun of its own systems of ideas, the life and light of all its own vast creation. And man is tributary to divine mind. The material and mortal body or mind is not the man. The world would collapse without mind, without the intelligence which holds the winds in its grasp. The compounded minerals or aggregated substances composing the earth, the relations which constituent masses hold to each other, the magnitudes, distances, and revolutions of the celestial bodies are of no real importance when we remember that they all must give place to the spiritual fact by the translation of man and the universe back into spirit. In proportion as this is done, man and the universe will be found harmonious and eternal. This material world is even now becoming the arena for conflicting forces. On one side, there will be discord and dismay. On the other side, there will be science and peace. The breaking up of material beliefs may seem to be famine and pestilence, want and woe, sin, sickness, and death, which assume new phases until their nothingness appears. These disturbances will continue until the end of error, when all discord will be swallowed up in spiritual truth. Mortal error will vanish in a moral chemicalization. This mental fermentation has begun and will continue until all errors of belief yield to understanding. As this consummation draws nearer, he who has shaped his course in accordance with divine science will endure to the end. As material knowledge diminishes and spiritual understanding increases, real objects will be apprehended mentally instead of materially. During this final conflict, wicked minds will endeavor to find means by which to accomplish more evil. But those who discern Christian Science will hold crime in check. They will aid in the ejection of error. They will maintain law and order and cheerfully await the certainty of ultimate perfection. There is no vapid fury of mortal mind expressed in earthquake, wind, wave, lightning, fire, bestial ferocity, and this so-called mind is self-destroyed. The manifestations of evil which counterfeit divine justice are called in the scriptures the anger of the Lord. In reality, they show the self-destruction of error or matter and point to matter's opposite, the strength and permanency of spirit. Christian Science brings to light truth and its supremacy, universal harmony, the entireness of God, good, and the nothingness of evil. Love will finally mark the hour of harmony, and spiritualization will follow, for love is spirit. If mind is foremost and superior, let us rely upon mind, which needs no cooperation from lower powers, even if these so-called powers are real. The Revelator tells us of a new heaven and a new earth. Have you ever pictured this heaven and earth inhabited by beings under the control of supreme wisdom? Let us rid ourselves of the belief that man is separated from God and obey only the divine principle, life, and love. Here is the great point of departure for all true spiritual growth. Let us learn of the real and prepare for the reign of spirit, the kingdom of heaven, the reign and rule of universal harmony, which cannot be lost nor remain forever unseen. Let unselfishness, goodness, mercy, justice, health, holiness, love, the kingdom of heaven, reign within us, and sin, disease, and death will diminish until they finally disappear. Let us rejoice that we are subject to the divine powers that be. Such is the true science of being. Let's pray for the congregation, first silently, then repeat together the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Let's sing hymn number 6. Abide not in the realm of dreams, O man, however fair it seems, but with clear eye the present scan, and hear the call of God and man. Hymn number 6. This church is a branch of the Mother Church, the First Church of Christ Scientist in Boston, Massachusetts. We hold Sunday services at 11 a.m. and Wednesday testimony meetings at 7:30 p.m. We also have services in Spanish, Sundays at 1 p.m. and Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. All services are now held online and in person, and you're always welcome. Third Church offers Sunday school classes online and in person for children and teens. These free one-hour classes are held each Sunday, where students learn how much God loves them and cares for them. They also learn about the Bible characters and lessons and the healing power of truth. For more information on times and classes, please send us an email, thirdchurch@thirdchurchnyc.com. Third Church maintains a reading room on the first floor of this building. The reading room provides a quiet place for prayer and study, and all are welcome. Here you may purchase books and recordings on Christian Science. The reading room also has the latest issues of the Christian Science Monitor, an award-winning international news weekly available to read or purchase. Reading room hours are Monday through Friday, from 1 to 4 p.m. Christian Science is practical and it heals. Our meeting is now open for all to share experiences of healing and spiritual insights that prove God's ever-presence and power in their lives. If you're listening by telephone and would like to share, please press *6 and wait until your line is unmuted. Please speak directly into the microphone of your phone. Don't use the speakerphone. This way your message will be easier to hear. If you're watching by Zoom, you can choose the raise your hand icon or unmute yourself and speak.
There was a line in the middle hymn that I hadn't thought about for quite some time, but with clear eye the present scan. Many years ago, I was in a practitioner's office. She was the first practitioner I had ever seen, and I went back home for Christmas, and I wanted to see her, etc. And I didn't go there with a particular problem or issue, I don't think. I probably had a problem or issue. She may have worked for me, but I do just remember sort of speaking to her about my class instruction, etc. And in the conversation, we were talking about healing, I guess, and sticking with it, and sometimes things seem very dire. And she told me the story of a little boy, Christian Science boy, who I don't remember what was wrong with his leg, but the problem was not yielding. The mother was a Christian Scientist and the father was not. And this practitioner got a call at some point one day in the afternoon, I think, from the mother saying the child is in the hospital and they are preparing to amputate the leg. This was very alarming to all concerned. She packed up her books and went to the hospital. Now, of course, ethically, she could no longer work for the child. I'm assuming she worked for the mother. And in the process of her working, she sat near the room in which the little boy was headquartered, with a bustle of doctors and nurses going in and out of the room with machines and all that kind of thing. And a line came to her, which was unfamiliar to her, but with clear eye, the present scan. She didn't know where that line came from. She eventually went home, I suppose, and did some concordance work and found it was hymn number 6. She said she didn't even remember ever having sung hymn number 6. But that was the turning point, because she knew that with clear eye, the present scan, she could see, does it say the call of God in man? She could see that God was totally at work on the case. And within the next bit of time, I don't remember whether it was an hour or so, the doctors and nurses, the parade of doctors and nurses sort of petered out, and there was quiet, and they must have done another scan of some sort and decided that the leg was healed and there was no need for amputation. A rather solid, clear-cut, and dramatic healing, showing a number of things, I guess, but one is that the omniscience of mind always tells us what we need to know, always gives us the inspiration to know what truth is needed in that moment. Certainly Mrs. Eddy could scan very clearly, and the story we all know probably is when she was in New Hampshire and some terrible storm was approaching. She was, I think, in that office with that bay window, and she could see, I don't know if it was a tornado, but it was certainly going to be a major and destructive thunderstorm. Mrs. Eddy did not like thunderstorms. And as the reminiscences say, and as the Peel book says, she looked at the black cloud and saw the face of God shining as the sun, and that was that. She did have workers watching for all sorts of things. One of them was the weather. She believed that extremes in weather came from extremes of mortal mind. And she was never particularly happy, apparently, with her workers because they kept thinking that they had to control the weather. And she said, that is not what you're doing. You're knowing that God is controlling the weather. But clearly, Mrs. Eddy had a very clear eye and could scan what God was always knowing. She expected her workers to do that, and I'm assuming she would expect us to do it as well. Thank you for your readings.
Thank you.
Thank you for your readings tonight. I was thinking about the subject of climate change, and Mrs. Eddy tells us when in praying to help someone or to treat a situation, to handle first fear. And that applies to dealing with climate change. The extremes of weather are certainly evident to the senses, and people are suffering. And so if one were to believe just what one can see with the eyes, there would be fear. But the antidote of fear is to understand the presence and the omnipotence of love. John says there's no fear in love and no love in fear. The first chapter of Genesis says that God gave man dominion over the earth. What does dominion mean? It doesn't mean the freedom to exploit or to destroy. Rather, I think it is a call to reflect God's government over the earth. Man's properly self-governed only when governed by God. Mrs. Eddy gives in the interpretation of "Thy will be done." Enable us to know that God is present on earth as he is in heaven, words to that effect. And I always thought one of the similar ideas that expresses the same thought was that grace and truth are potent beyond all other means and methods. And grace is, Mrs. Eddy says, that what we most need is the prayer, fervent desire for growth in grace, and expressed in patience, meekness, love, and good deeds. It is this grace, this presence of expressing God, that will be potent beyond all other means to deal with the challenge of climate change. Also, when Jesus says that to love one another, I think as the earth evolves, as society evolves, the idea and the demand to love one another it begins to mean new things. And one of the ways that we will love one another is to acknowledge the common interest that we all have in expressing a harmonious government of the earth in conduct that does not exploit or destroy, but that conserves and protects. And that idea, that new form of grace must be expressed just as the Christ is always present and always here and always giving us the ideas that are needed and appropriate for the current occasion. And that can be the solution, the only spiritual solution, just as you read about Jesus healing the wave or causing the waves to cease, stilling the storm. That power of divine love, of principle, that the allness of God good, when held in consciousness more commonly and by all mankind, will give us the quality of thought needed for the occasion.
Thank you. I'd like to share a recent healing. I wrote it out so I could translate it into Spanish for the Spanish service, but I'll read it in English. I'm grateful for the spiritual growth that we make every day, with every prayer, with every decision to see ourselves and others as God's beloved children, bathed in light and love. And the healing has to do with bathing in light and love. I love to go to the dentist to have my teeth cleaned. And for the last few decades, going to the dentist has been a place where I pray deeply about God as the source of all love for me, for everyone in the dentist office, and for the world. And whenever I've had work done on my teeth, like a filling or a replacement of a filling, I refuse the drug they use to reduce pain. And just as Tom mentioned, prayer, especially the prayer of knowing the perfect love of God, can cancel fear, which is the base of pain. The dentists have always been skeptical, but I tell them that I'll raise my hand if I feel any discomfort. And I've never had to raise my hand. I hear the drill, I feel it on my teeth, but I have never felt any pain at all. Occasionally the dentist checks in with me to make sure I'm okay, but they can see on my face that I'm more than okay. I'm in a state of joyful prayer. This last year and a half, due to the pandemic, I've not been able to go to the dentist, so I decided, why not make this an opportunity to pray for my teeth, to see them healthy and clean. It was a simple prayer, but based on a lot of spiritual study and prayer that I do for the world, for the church, and for my community. We really are the expression of God, of life, soul, spirit. And as God's reflection, every part of us is just right. And I left the prayer at that. I included my dog in this prayer. For several years, she's had bad breath, a lot of plaque and tartar on her teeth, and when she goes in for shots that are required by law, they always tell us that we need to have her teeth cleaned professionally. But we've been praying, and we've tried lots of different dog toothpastes, toothbrushes, teeth cleaning treats, and she never really liked any of this, and they never worked anyway. But after this prayer this week, when my daughter was checking into our dog's mouth, she saw that the dog's teeth were perfectly normal. There was no more plaque, there was no more smell, there was no tartar, just clean dog teeth. Sometimes world problems and our prayer about them serve to wake us up to the power and prayer that we always have available. I'm grateful that this science taught in the Bible and the Science and Health can be so practical and at the same time so spiritually uplifting. Thanks to all for being here. Thanks for your testimonies. Thanks for singing with us. Let's conclude by singing hymn number 253. The words are a poem by Mary Baker Eddy. I'll read the whole poem. This is called Christ, My Refuge. O'er waiting harp strings of the mind, there sweeps a strain, low, sad, and sweet, whose measures bind the power of pain, and wake a white-winged angel throng of thoughts illumed by faith, and breathed in raptured song with love perfumed. Then his unveiled, sweet mercies show life's burdens light. I kiss the cross and wake to know a world more bright. And o'er earth's troubled, angry sea, I see Christ walk and come to me and tenderly, divinely talk. Thus, truth engrounds me on the rock, upon life's shore, 'gainst which the winds and waves can shock, oh, nevermore. From tired joy and grief afar, and nearer thee, Father, where thine own children are, I love to be. My prayer, some daily good to do to thine, for thee, an offering pure of love, whereto God leadeth me. Hymn number 253.